If you struggle to simplify your art, then this video may well help you. I've got one really simple change that you can make literally today, literally right now, that will force you to simplify your art, both your colours and your ink sketching. We're going to run through it, we're going to create an amazing little scene, and you'll see just how easy it is to start today simplifying your art. Simplification is something which sounds so easy, doesn't it? But it actually sometimes isn't. It's simple, but that doesn't make it easy to achieve. I do think after you watch this video, you will have a much better idea of the direction to take, and the day's change will be a long way down the road towards simplifying. But it's also something I've put a lot of effort into creating full classes about. For example, on SkillShare, I have classes focused on simplifying urban scenes, taking us step by step through these processes. I have ways of creating simple sketches using soluble ink or when we are sketching outside. SkillShare is an online learning community with literally thousands of classes on, it seems like, any topic, and pertinent today is a vast array of creative topics for us sort of sketching enthusiasts. If you want to learn to sketch dogs or cats, it'll be there, I assure you. But also if you want to learn more in-depth sort of watercolor and ink techniques from myself, I've got 30 or more classes there that you could try. For that reason, I'm really grateful for SkillShare for sponsoring today's video. It really helps maintaining this YouTube channel, well, makes it so much easier. And also they've got a great offer down below. So if you click the link in the description, the first 500 people will get 1 month free to try out the SkillShare platform. Without further ado then, let's jump into this video and see what we are going to do, that key, special, magic change to start simplifying your art. So the first thing you're going to do is put away your expensive, fancy, fine fountain pen, your fine liners, and instead get out something else. Get a felt tip out, get a few day pen like this out, which costs £3, or if you have a brush pen, grab that. Get something which just feels a little bit too big. And we're going to do the same with our watercolors. Instead of using a series of fancy brushes, we're going to use a size 26. I think this is a round, it might be a mop, oh, it's a round wash, there we go. And we're going to use this and this to create a lovely little scene. Now this scene is The Folly from Wimpole Hall. And we're just going to, with our too big pen, capture the key shapes. The key shapes here, we've got a cylinder. You can think of it as a cylinder or a rectangle with a sort of ellipse at the top if you like, whichever way works for you. And then at the top we've got little sort of crenellations, and they're just a series of repeating shapes which you don't need to invest too much time and effort into. Down here we've got a little jutting out bit of wall. Before we've got this giant tree that's just cutting in. And like so, we've almost got half of our scene already, just because we're using too big a pen to possibly overcomplicate things. One of the risks with a small pen is you try and draw all the details. Here, no chance. So I'm just able to jump in and find those big shapes, and even just immediately move past shapes into shapes of value, say little blocks of dark black, for example, to create these windows. Prevents us overdoing things because we just sort of recognise, you know what, we can't. And if you are fortunate enough to have a brush pen, even more so, you'll really struggle to do fine details. Coming along, we've got these sort of broken down walls, these little ruins. Again, can't draw them in great detail, not going to try, just going to get the texture and the idea of these sort of triangles sat on a wall, this kind of up and down feeling. What else have we got? We got another lovely big tree sort of hunting its way through our scene, coming in here. And in the background we've got lots of little trees, so we could just draw them as another sort of array coming down the back, another layer, and then it sort of comes through the sort of, well, I could say the front, but it's still the back, but it comes along here as well, doesn't it? Last shape I can see is the shape of this verge of grass coming along, and we've got this bold tree trunk. And now our scene has been built in no time because we used too big a pen. One thing I'm going to do before we jump into our colours is just solidify some of these shapes. We'll see if we can avoid having to do too much at all with our colours, because everything's already just crystal clear. Crystal clear from our really simple approach, our excessively bold line, but a great little study, a great little exercise into this idea. Coming down here, we want to make sure that this wall feels like a wall. So let's get some little wall textures as well as we can with a big bold pen. And we'll also get some of these shadows in. So you've got these kind of shadows where we can see the wall, the crenellated, not crenellated, but crumbly wall facing us. We just get that bold black line in. And elsewhere we'll just get it as a bold area. A little bold line, sorry, not an area. I'm stumbling over my words. Just like with my bold pen, my too big tongue is getting me into trouble. Coming down here, nice bold line to bring this to the front of the image. Keeping it so simple, just ludicrously simple. Little texture brick marks as well. And then last but not least, some hatching. So we can hatch along this bit of wall. In the background we can do gentle linear hatching. That will separate out this row of trees from everything else, from the sky, from the tree in front, from the wall in front. And then we can do some grassy textures that explains, hopefully, the sort of change of interface from wall down to this verge, down to this foreground. We've even got little white flowers all across the side here, haven't we? The idea here, being so simple, is to just capture our scene as we want to, not worrying about perfection. For me, this is a really important scene. This is the first walk me and Tash took when we got home after our wedding. So we came home and our first walk ever in our home county is out here to Wimpole Hall. And I took this photo and the photo is rubbish, isn't it? Isn't the photo rubbish? But that doesn't mean we can't create a really beautiful memory from it. And just like that, we're ready to dive in with some more memory creation with a too big brush. So here we go. Going to just fill this sky with lots of water. Not too much. You know, I don't want puddles of water, but I do want plenty of water. So we'll just spread that water out, and I'm going to get it to come as much as I can around the church, There's no sense in me trying to be too specific with this ridiculously big brush. So instead of trying to be specific, I'm going to just let the colours do themselves, do their thing, do whatever they want. And then I'm going to encourage this kind of flowing feel by letting this water join up. And if the colours have got somewhere to flow to, then they won't just sit in a puddle. They will do something interesting for me on my kind request, if you like. They will just create a beautiful scene, create something a bit dramatic. And the sky here is quite interesting, quite dramatic. Just pushing them around, moving them around. Try not to be too busy with my brush, because then I'll create havoc I don't want. And then as we come down, I'll add a bit of warmth into the colours. Notice how I'm just elevating my page slightly. I've got my hand underneath, and that means the blue will come down, this quinacridone sienna will come down, these greens will come down. They'll all flow in a predictable direction. So as much as I'm being ridiculously loose and ridiculously big and ridiculously bold, there's also an element of I know what's going to happen because I'm just controlling enough elsewhere. A little bit of water there, and I'm just going to neaten up this edge. And we can do neat things, we just have to think about it. So we can do a little bit of neatness with our too big brush, just have to be a little bit careful. A few splashes of lavender in and around, just get some of that interest into the rest of the page, and even just a little touch of lavender into these walls, maybe as a little sense of a shadow down here. I want to leave plenty of negative space. I think that's important in a big, bold, bright sketch, but I'm just going to do enough touches to hopefully make it clear what we're dealing with. We're dealing with different planes, we're dealing with something green, we're dealing with a giant tower. And just like that, I think probably enough. Now you see, because I used loads of ink, some of the ink is running here, and that's fine. I'm just going to move it around enough that it becomes a part of the scenery, that it's blending and flowing in rather than overwhelming things. And now with my too big brush, a few more touches of really dense pigment, just letting it do its thing again, not controlling it. And maybe the same in the sky, just a little touch of our ultramarine in a couple of places. This is just creating that contrast. We want rich and bold contrast in our scene. And to do that, we need rich and bold pigment, and we need it to be not too wet. So we need it to not have too much water. And that's where just waiting for it to be a little drier on the page and adding it in is helpful. Is there anything else I want to do? Maybe just touching some of these blues in a sort of abstract way at the bottom here as well. And like that, you know what, I'm actually going to call this totally done. It may be that when this is dried, I could come back and add a few little touches of watercolor. But what I've done, what I've aimed to do at least, is really simplify by using things which are too big, by simplifying my processes. And I'm pretty happy with the result as it's looking at the moment. If you enjoyed this, you might enjoy these videos, and you might want to follow my channel where I sketch things simply all the time. So thank you everyone for watching my little sketching videos. If you enjoy my content, please do subscribe to my channel because it makes me really, really happy. Thanks again.